I'll knock out a stream or two, probably knock out a quick stream or two before I call it a night. So, with that being said, so let's talk about it. All right. We got some decent fights coming up, man. According to reports, you have Raymond Ford that'll take on the Shockey Foster in Houston, Texas. That appears to be going down May the 30th. And then there's some other fights coming up as well. So, um, what is the other fights they got coming up? They got, Abdullah Mason will be fighting at home in Cleveland. So that's coming up July the 4th. So they got some fights coming up. So he'll be defending his title in his hometown of Cleveland, Ohio. And then Keyshawn once again showed how full of shit he is and that he's just a master clout chaser. And that's all he is. He basically just used Devin Haney's name to try to sell his fights when he has no intentions on fighting Devin Haney. He's going to fight Nahir Albright again for the second time. And it appears it's going to be at the same place he was supposed to fight the last time, where he basically went out of his way not to make weight. But he sit up here talking all this shit about everybody's ducking him and stuff, when basically you intentionally didn't make weight to all but get out of that fight with De Los Santos. Now, De Los Santos, from what I've been told, he's with um, Zuffa Boxing. And then there's also a rumor going around that Zuffa may be in the process of buying Pro Box TV. So we'll see what's up. But nevertheless, let's get to the thick of things. Now, according to certain reports, this isn't factual. This is just certain reports. This is just something that's just floating around, but I feel the need to report it because I believe these numbers are pretty close to accurate. And now, in case you guys don't know, according to certain reports, that um, Sebastian Fundora, who doesn't have a fan base, who mostly, for the most part, nobody gives a fuck about, basically, him and Keith Thurman, their fight that was featured on pay per view was a flop. That it didn't do good. That it sold like 38,000 pay per views. So I don't even think that comes to a little bit around. Well, I'll put it to you this way: it's not enough probably to cover the expense of the fighters, the main event salaries, and basically the undercard fighters. So, this is one of the things that landed PBC in trouble with the other networks, putting together these type of events and then trying to put them on pay-per-view. Um, Fundora isn't a star. And for the most part, I'm just keeping it a buck. I'm not you know, I'll just say this much. Um, I just kind of don't respect what Fundora does. He basically squeezes his way down to 154 because you know there's some real challenges for him up there at the higher weight class, and I just don't think that he believes in himself because for him to be fighting at 154, and I know people gonna say, well, if he makes the weight, he makes the weight. Well, my thing is, how come when Devin Haney make weight, he's considered a weight bully, which Devin Haney is barely maybe 5 feet 9 and stuff. This dude is like 6'6". Like, it is what it is. You know, at the bare minimum, he should be fighting at least at, to me, maybe at 168. But then, you know how this works. We can't say anything about them. They only like it when we criticize fighters that look like us. But they constantly come on our channel trolling. But what did you expect? And Keith Thurman was, you know, Keith Thurman was a shell of himself. I know he's talking about he may go back down to 147, but Keith Thurman has fought off and on, maybe at best 4 times within the last 5 to 6 years. He's had long layoffs in fights. I mean, can we at least keep it a buck with him? Nobody expected Keith Thurman to win that fight. Now, and I think we, and I'm gonna be honest with you, I think we're jumping on the Fundora bandwagon far too soon to say he beats everybody at 154, because I feel like I feel like at the same time there could be that dude that can get up for that fight, you know. But I just think at the end of the day, this dude has an 80-inch reach, and like I said, he want to sit up there and fight dudes for the most part that, in all likelihood, he's gonna have a height and a reach advantage over. My thing is, if you really all that, like I said before, why don't you move up? I'm just saying, you 28 years old. So, but it's always a double standard. But this is the type of stuff that got the PBC in trouble once again, trying to pass these fights off as pay-per-view caliber fights. This fight should not have been on pay-per-view, especially for somebody that's relatively unknown in the boxing circuit like Sebastian Fundora. And the thing is, when you call this out, when you call the PBC out for this kind of stuff, they hold a grudge against you. Because here's the thing: they want to muzzle, like I said, they want to muzzle black media. They want to play hardball with us, but then they want us to play nice with them. But then the other media outlets that are not ran or owned by black media or black personalities, they can say whatever they want. But then, like I said, they sit up here, hey, just play nice, don't go in on it, don't go in. No, so no, I'm just keeping it a buck. This fight was not pay per view worthy. Pay per view worthy fights are fighters that have a name and that, they are far past just familiar with just, you know, boxing, enthusiasts. When their name is starting to float as far as casuals go who only watch boxing every once in a while, that's when you put a fighter on pay per view. And like I said, the PBC is just went out of their way, and it's not just the PBC, but it's other is other promotional companies too that have tried to rebrand and try to manipulate the pay per view model. Sugar Ray Leonard Hagler at the time, that was a pay per view caliber fight because they were established fighters. Those type of fight should have been a Lennox Lewis once again and Mike Tyson. That's a pay per view fight because those dudes were established. Spence and Crawford was pay per view because those fighters got established. Even though we got to see Canelo and Terrence Crawford pretty much for free. Well, I ain't gonna say for free, but as long as you had a Netflix subscription, you got to see the fight. So that's what I'm saying. A lot of people just don't understand how the pay-per-view model works. Oh yeah, and I see that Tim Bradley is hating on Devin Haney again, and then the people that don't like Devin Haney or got an issue with Bill trying to regurgitate what Tim Bradley said. Listen, I respect Tim Bradley knowledge of boxing, but sometimes it doesn't come from a good place. Sometimes it comes from just a little bit of malice and a little vitriol. I don't know what was the premise of Timothy Bradley getting into it with Bill and Devin, but sometimes I notice when he talk about them, it's beyond just boxing. It's personal. And yeah, I said it. Just keeping it a buck. And then you got other dudes that are Listen, Tim Bradley just voicing his opinion just like everybody else. You can agree or disagree. Just because Tim Bradley says something that isn't the gospel, you'll agree with it if you don't like that fighter, and you may disagree with it if you happen to like the fighter or you fond of the fighter. That's just how it works. You can agree or disagree. I know the difference between a fair assessment and then when somebody just sitting up there just bashing somebody just to be bashing. Y'all gotta understand, I've been doing this way too long. Okay. I've been covering boxing. I've been going to live boxing events for like almost 10 years now. So I know how it works. Over the years, I've learned how the business works. And, when he was speaking on the Rolly fight, listen, you can't sit up there and say he ducked Rolly and he fought Brian Norman Jr. We can all agree that Brian Norman Jr. is a far more skillful fighter than Rolly Romero. At the end of the day, this is the thing. There's pros and cons when you operate on your own, when you are basically a free agent as far as promoting goes. And some people can sit up here and make excuses for these promotional companies. Look, PBC is known for not like, you know, really letting you know how much money is available playing these type of games. When has PBC ever won a purse bid for a fight? The only people that they make sure get their money is fighters that have a Spanish name. You know, they make sure Canelo get all their money. I'm just telling the truth. So, with that being said, it's already in play for Fundora to fight the winner of Tim Zoo and Errol Spence if that fight comes to fruition. Errol Spence is talking, but we've yet to see Errol Spence really sign a contract and really make a official announcement that he's coming back. I'm just telling the truth, and this isn't bashing Errol Spence, and it kind of makes you wonder, you know, this kind of makes you wonder what's going on with Errol Spence, and that's the thing. People like to try to protect these promotional companies and try to protect certain people, but here's the thing: um, I know stuff too. So we're waiting to see is there going to be a formal announcement. We're just waiting to see if Errol Spence is going to say, "Hey, I'm coming back." I'm waiting for an official announcement that Errol Spence is making a comeback once again. Um, you know, and I'm gonna say this ahead of time. Please, if Errol Spence does come back and he beat Tim Zoo, please don't start talking about that Bud need to come out of retirement and fight Spence. Please don't start that foolishness. Okay? Please don't start that foolishness. Because we know some of these Errol Spence apologists go say, oh, Bud owes him. Oh, Bud, shut the fuck up. Oh, I don't want to hear that goofy shit. Because when the end result happened of the first fight, a lot of y'all tuck y'all tail to stuff. The same people that was sitting there like, man, I don't even want to go through that again. He just had a bunch of goofiness, you know. But I'm just saying ahead of time, please don't start pushing that narrative. Okay? That's just real talk. Anyway, this is your boy Town out.